Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. Today the forces of the Empire take to the field once more. This time defending their homes, their lands and their honour from the dark, evil forces of Malekith, or Malarian, or whatever name he's going by this week. Yes, it's his Empire against the Dark Elves. Now, going into this particular game, for me, I didn't know quite what to expect. It's my first game against the Dark Elves. So I decided I would be taking my latest tweak to my All-Comers Empire list, because I think really, if nothing else, I'm at the stage now where I just need to get reps in and build a strong understanding of how to use the army. What is the latest tweak? Well, the state troops, as much as Empire, should always, I think, be about the massed ranks of state infantry, colours blazing in the sunlight. Quite frankly, they don't get the job done. They struggle with their low leadership, they struggle with their small number of attacks that aren't particularly effective. They just don't seem to provide value. So out march the state troops, and in march another block of knights. So my force now consists of a Grandmaster on horseback with stuff, a mounted BSB, a mounted level 4 wizard, again using battle magic, 2 engineers on foot. The core of my army is made up of 2 units of 9 Empire Knights, one of those units carrying the War Banner, both having full command. Also got a unit of 5 archers. Moving on to the special choices, we have 2 units of Outriders with a unit champion and 2 great cannon. The army's rounded off with a Hellblaster volley gun and a steam tank. So what about the Dark Elves? Now, as I say, I wasn't really sure entirely what to expect from them. Now, I know that they're not particularly rated as a high tier army, but I was anticipating Dragon, Hydra, fast moving, high impact troops, so Cold War Knights, maybe a chariot, infantry that will just try and drown you under either a weight of fire from repeater crossbows or a sheer volume of attacks. And whilst I had in my mind what I was going to try and achieve, so what would be my main targets for my artillery, take the Dragon, try and take repeater bolt throwers down, just try and force them to play my game. I didn't know what I was coming into, so it was quite interesting when my opponent pulled out his figures. What did he have? Well, he had a Dreadlord as his general. The Dreadlord going with a unit of the dreaded Blackguard. He had a level 4 sorcerer using dark magic and a battle standard bearer. There were 19 spearmen with full command, a unit of 10 repeater crossbows, a single repeater bolt thrower, Hydra, 19 Corsairs, 5 Cold War Knights, and 5 Doomfire Warlocks. He had slightly more drops than I did, which gave me the +1 to see who went first, and this was huge as we both rolled a 1, giving me the opportunity to open proceedings. Turn 1 was everything you want as an Empire player. Now, admittedly, my volley gun didn't get in on the action because I deployed it back away from the start line and it didn't have anything to shoot at. But my 2 great cannon between them were able to take out the Hydra. Half of the repeater crossbowmen were felled by the massed firepower of my Outriders and some archers. And as the smoke cleared, the unit of Doomfire Warlocks fled the field. In response, the Dark Elves could merely shoulder their weapons and advance. A single knight fell and a single archer to the return fire. And this took us very swiftly into turn 2. Turn 2 saw my artillery, which had failed to hit the repeater bolt thrower in the first round, find the target, smashing it to pieces. 11 of the Blackguard fell in the fury of firepower as the forces of the Empire continued to blaze away, and all they could do was continue their steady advance into a wall of fire and lead. The return fire from the Dark Elves lines effectively neutered by the onslaught that they faced. By the start of turn 3, the forces of the Dark Elves were close. They were threatening the lines of the Empire. And the Empire attacked. The steam tank charged the Blackguard. A unit of knights charged into the Corsairs, whilst the other unit positioned itself ready to take on the Cold One knights. The artillery was able to do a few wounds to the block of spearmen, marching up the left flank of the Dark Elf lines, and 3 of the 5 Cold Ones were felled by the Hellblaster volley gun. The steam tank combat with the Blackguard started a long-running grindfest, and the knights that charged into the Corsairs bounced off them without causing any real impact. In the Dark Elf turn 3, the 2 surviving Cold War knights charged the knight unit commanded by the Empire General, who ordered his men to countercharge, expecting a relatively swift victory. This wasn't, however, to be the case. The Dark Elf champion issued a challenge, was met by his counterpart, and the Empire man fell. Whilst the one rank and file chappie was cut down, the amount of overkill that had been achieved in the challenge meant the Empire forces actually lost the combat. And then, rolling spectacularly badly for the leadership test, including a BSB reroll, the general fled the field with his not-so-brave knights. Things were not turning out for the best overall, though, for the Dark Elves. Turn 4 saw the Spearman unit flee under the firepower directed at them, and the remaining Cold War knight was killed. The Blackguard were wiped out, leaving just the general of the Dark Elf force by himself in an engagement with a steam tank. In the Dark Elf turn 4, the steam tank was able to finish off the general, and the BSB in the Corsair unit was killed in a challenge. This particular battle, which had raged backwards and forwards between the units of knights and Corsairs, came to a conclusion with the Corsairs finally being forced to flee. Charged, they were caught in turn 5, and the game was called with 5 crossbowmen left on the field for the Dark Elf forces, along with the fleeing remnants of the spear unit. In return, the forces of the Empire had lost 1 unit of knights, including the general, and the unit of 5 archers had been cut down by the repeater crossbowmen. So overall, a significant victory for the forces of the Empire. Now, for me, this was a little bit of a feels bad sort of game. I'd had a really successful turn 1. I had offered to my opponent just to re-rack at that point when one of his flanks had been battered completely off the table, but he decided he wanted to play it out and see what happened. So fair play to my opponent there, wanting to keep the game going and see how it went. Yeah, definitely not really the game I necessarily enjoy playing, being as it was pretty one-sided and a lot of the action coming from the gunline tactics of just sitting back and blazing away. But there were lessons learnt for both of us, which were quite useful. And I've definitely started to shift away, I think, from my thinking around Outriders being in open order as opposed to skirmishing. And I do think that had their units been skirmishing, they would have been even more effective than they actually were. The 360-degree line of sight the ability to move in any direction easily would have really helped them. I do have a bit of a tendency to use them in loose order because then you can use them to redirect, but it does also hamper their mobility, so I'm not always getting it right. I don't think my choice here, although it didn't backfire too badly on me today. Well, today as at the date of recording. I do feel as though I'm getting better now at using the Empire forces, and I'm starting to get a feel for how this particular style of build is operating, and it does seem to be getting me a reasonable amount of success, albeit I'm not facing top tier armies, really competitive builds and things like that. I am fully aware of that, so could well come up against a bit of a shocker when I do come across those more challenging lists down the line. But overall, pretty pleased. I've gone from losing every game of Warhammer that I'm playing to building up a little bit of a win streak, so that's definitely a positive for me. I'm looking forward to running out against some other forces in the near future, seeing how I get on with them, seeing what are the challenges I can face and try and overcome, even if unsuccessful. But there we have it. Victory for the forces of the Empire and victory for the Halfling Revolution. If you enjoyed this video and others like it, do please consider subscribing. It is the easiest way of supporting small channels such as this one, as well as giving a few moments of your time to listen to the mutterings of a small YouTuber. Thank you once again for listening. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.